We are raw and real Western women who have endured the fires of life, and though we carry the brands of our trials,
we are learning how to satisfy our thirst with the well water that comes from the only one that can truly satisfy, Jesus.
Journey with us as we explore an unlimited range of topics. We will discuss our personal experiences,
the good, the bad, and the ugly, along our beautiful journeys to the well, and so much more.
Water up! Hey y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to discuss the positive versus negative, the power of our tongues in our own home and how it applies to each one of us, our husbands, our children, and what that looks like for each of us in our own homes. The verse that comes to mind personally for me, which I've been reading through Proverbs a lot lately, and it is Proverbs 18:21, and I'm going to read off the original, the King James version of it, but it is, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." And that stands out to me, one, because it's so simple, and two, because as simple as it is, it's so powerful. And it doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you're talking about the weather, if you're talking about illness, if you're talking about a relationship, the power of your tongue is endlessly powerful. And like, for example, whether we're addressing each other or our husbands or our children, if we put something to them in a positive manner, one, they're going to be more receptive of it. Two, they're going to be more willing to listen and to heed what we're saying. If we approach them in a negative manner, they're not going to want to listen. They're going to shut down. They're going to reject what we're putting out toward them, and it's going to have a negative ending for everybody. And then two, we will things to come forth with our words. So when we speak over a situation positively, we will it to have a positive outcome along with the prayer that we put with that. And if we speak toward a situation negatively, we will it to have a negative outcome. And for example, this evening on the way here, I had a situation with Macy. She was just playing in the back seat, just like a sweet little 6-year-old girl does. And she was, playing. She was acting like a puppy, she was barking and woofing. I was like, "Oh, hi, little puppy," And she wanted to play a game, And she started playing and talking. I said, "Well, what game do you want to play?" And she turned over and went from like this happy little girl, and she goes, "I'm a sad puppy." And I said, "Well, why is puppy sad, And she goes, "My family died." And I stopped her. I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." I said, "Listen," I said, "I will play with you all day long. We have an 1.5-hour drive ahead of us. I will play with you all day long, but I'm not going to play with you if you're going to talk like that." I said, "That's negative. We don't ever will anything negative like that over our family." And I explained to her, she kind of sold up and she got her feelings hurt. And I said, "You're not in trouble. I'm just trying to teach you. Because if we don't, the world will. So if we don't teach them that negativity and talking over those kind of things isn't okay, the world will." And so then, she come out of that and we moved on. We started talking about other things, and she moves on to talking about her class and her school day. She goes, "Well, everybody in my class has had strep throat. I guess I'm going to get it too." And I said, "No, baby, no." I said, "You got to break that off of you. Rebuke it in the name of Jesus." I said, I said, "We're going to pray right now. Right now we're going to pray." I said, "We don't claim that. We break it off. We rebuke it. We loose health and wellness over our family. We've been blessed this winter. We've not been sick." I said, "We are not claiming that." And I just made a point of, one, letting her know that she wasn't in trouble, because she gets her feelings hurt pretty easy. And then two, just telling her, let's reverse this into a positive. We're not, these little tiny things that seem so small to her, we're not going to fuel that. You need to understand that you've got to look at it from the positive aspect. And if we don't do that for them and teach them that that's how they're supposed to approach the world, well, somebody else is going to, and you don't have that influence.
How often do we do that, though? Like, for instance, sickness. Somebody comes down sick in the house, and then like you automatically go into, well, I guess I'm going to get it too. And then you start, if you keep doing this, you're going to catch it too. And like you constantly speak that, and before you know it, you're experiencing the symptoms. And like you've made yourself so worried that you experience the symptoms, and then you're sick. And then it's just like, yeah.
You literally talked yourself into being sick.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Or the stress of it being in the home has made you sick now because you've stressed so much over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find I find that topic applies so much directly to my daughter. Like even with Joel, I find it applies, but more so directly toward her. And mostly in the way that we address her and talk to her and bring up different topics to her. And I try for the most part to approach Joel with a positive mindset anytime that we approach a conversation. And that's something I've just kind of trained myself to do over the years. But I find that power of positive and negative comes out more so when addressing Macy than any other time.
Yep, and it's so simple. Like you know, a lot of people don't think about teaching the little children how simple it is just to start making those quick habits of, hey, we need to turn this around and make it positive, even on just something as simple as playing. You know, everybody else is like, it's no big deal. Like, I grew up with, my mom used to always say, you got to think positive. And I'd be like, are you really sure? You know? But now, you know, like, you turn it around, and, like, the people that say that, a lot of times they're the more negative people. I'm like, do you really believe that?
They're trying to talk themselves
I
into
know.
thinking
That's
positive.
That's it.
But, like, in, you know, adult life, like, it's very easy to take just that simple negative or positive, and, I mean, you can make it 10 times worse with just what you say. You know, like, oh, it's a bad Monday. Everybody has a bad Monday, you know, like, that's always something that, and I've tried to get myself out of the habit of saying that just because it did become a habit. And, well, guess what? Mondays were always bad. None of them were good.
That's right.
But it was part of what I was speaking over it too, and the attitude that I had coming into it also. I had a verse in James 3, and a lot of people know it, but it's about the untamable tongue. And I was going to start in verse 3, and it said, Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships, although they are large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. Anyways, it goes on to continue talking about how just little the tongue is, but how powerful it is, and how much effect it can change it can steer your whole body, and it can steer your whole mind. If you wake up and start your day with, like, just simply, it's going to be a good day, we're going to have a good day, you know, even if bad stuff starts coming at you, it's easier to reroute your mind and make it a positive thing, even though if the day didn't go like as expected or whatever. But it's really a privilege to be able to teach our children that too, even at a young age. Like, JC's just 9, but sometimes she'll come home and she's picked up some negative phrases that I have said before, and had, you know, I didn't realize until I got older, like, hey, I don't need to say that, I need to reverse. But I didn't realize it was a problem, and a lot of people don't realize that those little phrases, they can make a big impact on your whole day and the outcome, you know, of your whole life.
Yeah, we tend to not see it until our kids repeat it, and it's like,
Right.
Hold
Little
on,
copycats
that
that
came
come
from
at
me. But it's good to have that accountability, because that's exactly what they give us.
Or like the name calling in the home. Like, I know that is something in our home that is struggled with. Mainly like either watching the boys call each other stupid, or saying, you know, for instance, Keegan, you know, will say something and be like, well, you're just dumb. Like, that was a dumb decision, you know, like, okay, yes, it was, but they're technically not dumb. You know, they just made
Right.
a bad choice. And it's just like using those things and pointing at them and using those words like you can see in their eyes, like they may not react to it as if it like really bothers them, but later on they kind of think, well, I wonder if he really does think I'm dumb, or does she really think I'm dumb, or and like later on be like, well, I guess I'm just dumb, isn't that what you told me before? Like those things stay with them, and then like they feed off of those, and the next thing you know, they're calling somebody else dumb or stupid, or and like we don't be talking like that. And like I'm just as guilty, of doing that. We all are, but it's like you don't think about those things until you think about them being stuck in a kid's head and them really grabbing a hold of that in their whole life. Well, my parents told me my whole life I was dumb, or called me dumb, and like that hurts my feelings to think about that.
Soaks in at the root of their soul, even if they don't realize that it's happening right then.
For instance, with that, Keegan was playing with Case, like Case wanted him to play some video game or something like that, and Keegan said something to him, and Case took it like to heart. Like he said something, well, I'm moving out, and instead of Keegan being like, I don't want you to move out, buddy, he just turned and looked at him, he was like, move out, like he's 7, come on, but it's like, and like Case took that to heart, like he fed off of it for like 3 or 4 days, and like every time it was said, he was like, well, I guess I'll just move out, and it was like to the point like Keegan's like, get over it, and I was just like, you don't understand. He took that to heart. Like he wanted you to respond and let him know that, no, I would never want you to do that. Instead, you just went with it, like, and like that literally deeply rooted in him. And now he'll be like, well, I guess you just want me to move out. You're 7. Where are you going? Where are you going, really? And he was like, I'll just pack my backpack and take my TV and
take my TV.
Yeah.
Too funny. But yeah, I see that a lot in JC too. Just like, you shouldn't do that. That's dumb. Like just we get in the habit of just saying so many things, but then like especially with like little girls, they take a lot of words to heart, and then it's like, oh yeah, I better reel that back. We got to turn that around. You're not dumb. You're very smart. We've got to just start using our brain and thinking about things before we do them. We got to be more careful with this, or with situations on the ranch. It can be a safety issue if you don't, so like a lot of times me and Jake will be like just yelling at him just out, out of protection, but a lot of times we have to, which I've tried to kind of reverse it a little bit where it's not as negative. Cause I mean, we can't quit talking. Like a vow of silence or whatever is not going to help the unruly tongue. You got to turn it around to be positive, and try to, because you got to replace the negative with something.
Basically, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all, kind of
right,
thing.
Yeah.
What you're told your whole childhood.
Yeah.
You got nothing nice to say.
Yeah, or like completely retrain yourself to turn negative into positive, to try and look at it from a different perspective.
Right.
Like the retraining of your own mind.
And even in that, like my oldest is so used to it now. He's just like, he says that all the time, or it's said to me all the time. Like like you're making that acceptable for them to accept out into the world, and it's not acceptable. I'm just used to it. It don't bother me no more. But deep down, it really does. The right person comes along and says that right thing, it's gonna bother you, and you've accepted that because it's been done to you your whole life. So then you just deal with it. Like you can't make that acceptable. That sin is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And then you'll see that it goes down into the other generations. It continues to flow if it's not corrected up front.
Yep. And then it just creates problems later on. Are they going to start talking to their kids that way? I was talked to this way my whole life. Why can't I do that? Like that's a lot of things we run into. Like Keegan was talked to like that, and so like now it's acceptable for him. Like it's acceptable for me to do to my children because it was done to me, when in reality it's not.
Well, they're impressionable, and if they're not told that it's not okay, they think it is okay. Just like the game that she was playing in the back of the truck. She hears and sees stuff like that at school, and nobody's told her that it's not okay. So in her little mind, it's okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Are you finding that you need more fuel throughout the week? Check out these other Jesus-driven podcasts. The Get Right Christian Podcast, hosted by Jess Bishop, Jay Barnes, and Justin Brent. And Unshakable with Charlana Kelly, brought to you by Speak Truth Media. Charlana has been a wonderful influencer of ours, and we highly recommend listening to her program.
I have my verse, and it is 1 Peter 3:10, and it says, "For whoever desires to love life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit." And this basically goes around basically bashing the life that God has given you. Whenever there's pressure put on you, say like for instance, financial things is what we've had the pressure of. And instead of keeping it just pressured to that, it's like downhill from there. Like if you have this one pressure, well, I guess I'm not good enough, or I guess this is going to fall apart too. Like you automatically start speaking these things over you and downgrading what God has done for you. No, we may not have had what we want, but everything that we needed, God supplied for. But in the midst of the pressure from whatever it was, we immediately start speaking deceit and evil of the tongue of what God has done for us. And I can understand that it's probably not very, appreciated by God, being He has done all these things.
Yeah, because in that point, you're now bashing what He has blessed you with. He's like, well, I provided all this for you. You have what you need, which I promised to give you what you need. Why are we complaining?
Right.
It's just like a domino effect. Like once that one thing goes bad in your day, it's like the whole day's ruined, or the next thing in line is not good enough, and then it's,
It affects you deep down in your soul, and it affects everything you touch and look at and talk about. And
So it's basically just being grateful for what God has given you, no matter if there's pressures or if there's trials or, persecution. You're supposed to just be grateful in the day and accepting for what's come, because we're supposed to be grateful for our trials and tribulation. That's where we grow. Like you can't be on the mountaintop all the time. You have to be in the valley, and you have to learn and grow. And in that time, you're not supposed to speak negative. You're supposed to, be glorifying God through that. You got breath in your lungs. That's all that matters.
Well, it says in the Bible that we're God's children, and He chastises His children because He loves us. I mean, that's the same with parenting. If you just let your kids go do whatever without discipline or teaching them the right way or trying to turn them, do you really love them? Are they really going to have a, blessed life if they don't know that, hey, there's consequences to things?
We're just supposed to foster a gracious heart all the time, regardless of what you're going through, and have the positive attitude that, yes, it's dark right now, but the light is coming. It's not going to be this way forever. To go ahead and just start preparing your mind with the things that He has promised you.
Yeah. I think maintaining a positive attitude has to do with mastering your perspective and like the retraining of your mind. So mastering that and having the strength and the thought process and forethought, I guess, to overcome that negative mindset that our flesh preys upon us with.
Yeah, because the flesh will grab a hold of you and make you dwell on that one thing, and it will just like...
And it can only last a minute, and you're like, why?
Why?
It's really evident in teenage daughters too, because like one little wrong move and their entire day is completely ruined. And it's like, what happened? And even Allie, yeah, my middle child the other day, she was like, Mama, listen, I had to pray really hard last night. She said I was mad at everybody. She was like, I don't know why. She was like, I was mad at you. I was mad at myself. I was mad at God. I was like, listen, everybody. She's like, I had no reason to be. I just was. But to know that there's enough instilled in her that she, one, will speak it out loud and tell somebody, hey, I was struggling and I went to God about it.
Well, that she recognized it.
And then the next day, she was like a completely different person. Like, it worked. And so she's now recognizing, take it to God, lay it at His feet. Just because one bad thing happened doesn't mean it should ruin your entire day and be mad at everybody. But it's not only just a mental struggle, but it's a hormonal struggle whenever they're teenagers. They're seeing all the stuff that they put out there in the world, and oh, she's prettier than me, she's taller than me, she's got this, and they don't look at their own beauty that God provided for them. And so trying to take that back and speak the positive in their life, and look at, like you said, look at what God's blessed you with.
Well, it's like the world wants you to be one way, and when you go out in it, they're going to speak negatively if you don't fall in this one category. Everybody likes a size 2, and like all that, but that's not what true beauty is. So the world's constantly speaking negative, and you just have to love the life that you've been given, and constantly speak the positive. And then as far as waking up, like you said, on Monday mornings, how majority of our lives have we been told Mondays were supposed to be bad days?
It's Monday.
Okay, so that was already instilled in us. It's just like
Everybody knows a Monday's a bad day. Like, no, it's
No,
just another day.
I don't claim that.
Like, okay.
just like it says, to desire to love life. Well, you're not going to love life if you're constantly focused on everything that goes wrong. So if it's going wrong, look at something that's going right and put your,
Focus
mindset
on
there.
that.
Be
Right.
gracious for it.
Yeah.
And I really like how you're teaching Allie Joe to, like, that we don't have to be subject to how our hormones make us feel. Yes, they can make us feel terrible, and I've told that to JC some. I said, whenever you get a little older, your hormones are going to start going everywhere. I said, but just because you feel bad that day, that doesn't mean you have to that day. We can turn it around, and we can feel good, and we can make a choice on how we act, even if we do feel bad. And I feel like that's important, and like it's something that I didn't learn until I got a little older, that hey, I don't have to come home just because I'm hormonal and fight with everybody and make Jake mad and make JC mad and be mad at everybody. And
My family, we tend to seclude ourselves. It's like, okay, you're mad, and we'll be vocal about now. Like, I'm mad. I'm going to bed. Y'all just give me this night. I'm out. I can't.
need to breathe.
That's funny.
Y'all ready for mine?
Ready.
Okay, so I had Psalms 140. I'm going to start at 2 and end in 3. It says, who plan evil things in their hearts? They continually gather together for war. They sharpen their tongues like serpents. The poison of asp is under their lips. And that hits hard because kind of what we've all been touching on and discussing is that words kill you from the inside out, just like an asp, a snake will. It eats you from the inside out. It's not something that we carry on our faces a lot of times. A lot of times we bury it down deep. But then whenever you get older, that's whenever you start seeing some of those issues arise from someone always talking bad about you, or in my case, if you speak bad about yourselves and your children, then inherit talking bad about themselves, and you don't want that. So trying to kill that off before it even gets into them.
Right.
Yeah, that's bad.
Well, and another thing too, in regards to trying to keep a positive mentality or word over your family and over your husbands, is the things that we speak over them, like we encourage them to come true. When we tell them and speak over them, you're a good provider, you're a good leader, you're full of wisdom, like whatever the case may be, putting forth that kind of positive, just outward, approach to them, it encourages them to be that or to further that within themselves.
Instead of being criticizing or
Yeah.
every time that they come home, we need more of this, or you need to do this, or like.
Well, and they get so down on themselves even, inside, and they may not talk about it, but they're like, self-conscious, or man, I'm just not good enough, or I just didn't get enough work this week. I'm not a good provider for my family, whatever the case may be. They get so down on themselves, and it's our job to lift them up with positivity.
Right. I mean, we get down on ourselves too, just the same way. But a lot of people don't. I guess they don't. I guess on the husbands, you expect the men to be able to deal with the pressures of this world a little bit better, but that's not always. I mean, just because we have a bad day and we think we can take it out on them, that's not okay for them either. Like, they instead of us, adding more to their plate, we can be like, hey, let me help you with this, instead of just, I've had a bad day, I'm not doing anything else, like, no, let me lay myself down and let me help you with this and this.
The tongue wants to react emotionally. It wants to be driven by the emotion instead of what's really causing the issue. That was just ringing in my head. It's like the tongue is emotional. It wants to feed off of that, and that's just something that you do have to learn to tame. Like, look at what they're not saying. Yes, they might say some things that are hurtful, but look past and see what has driven that. And then obviously not being offended by it. Like, that's one thing as Christians you're supposed to do, is not be offended. Well, it's pretty easy to get offended by some of the things that roll off some people's tongues. It's like, all right now.
Which is why we should be slow to speak.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Stop and think.
But not make emotional,
Not be subject to just emotions. We have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's how you use it, and that's what makes it death or life, is how you use it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Dear Lord, we come to you tonight and we thank you for everything that you have given us. Thank you for these wonderful ladies that we get to talk and discuss with, dear Lord. And thank you for showing us each a different aspect of the power we can have over our tongues and the power that you have given us. Dear Lord, you have given us power over all the enemy and authority over all the enemy, dear Lord. And we thank you for showing us and revealing to us how we can establish your power over the enemy through our words and through our homes and through the impact that we have on our homes. Thank you for letting us be able to raise our children and show them that they do have a choice over letting their emotions affect them and letting the typical, stereotype of bad Mondays, letting that affect their day. Dear Lord, we have a choice in that, and we choose to wake up and we choose to have your joy, dear Lord, because you have given us so many blessings. And even if it does turn out to be a bad day, dear Lord, help us to glorify you through our trials and our tribulations. Thank you for everything that you have given us and the opportunity to speak your words to people. And dear Lord, please bless each and every one that hears it. And dear Lord, let each and every one have ears to hear and hearts to receive the seeds that we are trying to plant for you, dear Lord. Let us win some souls for you, Lord, and let us keep doing your kingdom work. And thank you for everything that you have given us and the opportunities that you have placed in front of us. In Jesus' name.
Amen.